Anyways, Catherine Fraser of the Alberta Court of Appeals, Chief Judicial Whore, and her thug McDonald are named in the solemn asseveration of criminal complaint, Alberta Court of Appeals, which is recorded with the Pinal County Recorder. I find that the accusation of being a paper terrorist is quite flattering, but realistically not true, because if I was able to terrorize a bureaucrat into something contrary to his oath of office, the bureaucrat would be guilty of breach of trust. Come on now, Rooke, get real. And so the simple fact of the matter is that if the bureaucrat changes his behavior because of something I've done, it's because I've shown him that he's being given unlawful commands, and he realizes he has no duty to obey an unlawful command. And so, but Rooke, Rooke doesn't want to have any of that. He wants his hired thugs intends to represent me without authority, intends to breach the trust. He intends to make sure that his hired pig thugs keep their presumptions so they can have plausible deniability when they assault people and kidnap people and falsely imprison people, all of which is in support of his military dictatorship under Roman civil law. And that's exactly what Rooke intends. Rooke intends to deny due process with his master order for organized pseudo-legal commercial argument documents dated 18 June 2013 pursuant to Meads versus Meads. Rooke is named on a petition of right which is filed in the Court of Queen's Bench, which he even talks about in his Meads versus Meads case. Rooke is named in criminal complaints that are recorded with the Pinal County Recorder at fee number 2011-066323 and 066322. And this is his master order, and let's look at it close. Look at that, filed June 18th. Master order for organized pseudo-legal commercial argument documents pursuant to Meads versus Meads. And notice this, it says Honorable Associate Chief Justice. Well, first of all, he's the one that's saying there's no common law. At common law, it's called a justice, but he's not a justice, he's a clerk. And and he calls himself honorable. Well, yeah, right. Yeah, he's about as honorable as they get. Yeah, the whore. And and upon the court's own motion, he took it upon himself. Boy, he went and stuck his foot in his mouth in this one, I'll tell you. And by the time I'm done, I am really looking forward. I hope I get to see him do that little dance they do at the end of a common law rope. And I'm also glad that it's not up to me to decide. But I'd really like to see it. Anyways, upon the court's own motion, that there are from time to time attempts to file documents in the court that are in a form not known are intended to be an abuse of the court's process, frivolous and vexatious. Well, they like to use that. They use that all the time, vexatious. Well, yeah, we don't want to be talking about treason and sedition because we want to commit the treason and sedition, and we don't want to be accused of it. We just want to accuse other people of it. And that's essentially what he's saying. Frivolous and vexatious. Yeah, that's the typical stuff they come up with. Anyways, and it says it is hereby ordered the clerk shall review documents proposed to be filed by any suspected OPCA litigant to determine if any formal defects appear as set out in List A. And so they go now the clerks are reviewing all the documents, and they're supposed to refuse to file them if they don't. If such documents contain any formal defects, the clerk shall refuse to file the document. And so he intends to deny due process. He intends to convert everybody into a slave. Let's go through this list. That's the whore's signature right there. And so there we go with that. And so the litigant complains of specific title or status, a freeman on the land or a freeman. We can't have that. We can't have any freeman. We don't want any freeman in here. We only want slaves. And so, yeah, absolutely. And so using a simple thing like a dash or a colon in your name, see, at common law, what they do is the family name of, like, the bitch, Elizabeth the bitch, her last name is actually, it's Windsor or Battenberg. I mean, actually by blood, I guess it's Battenberg. But anyways, because they're from Germany. But anyways, what happens is most people don't know what the family name is because at common law the family name's never mentioned, and so that's why people put down, like with myself, I put down Glenn Winningham, House of Fern, because House of Fern is the family name, or Fern actually is the family name, and I don't want anybody to think I'm hiding, and so I put that there, and so But now Rooke wants to make sure that you're not common law. He wants to make sure you're one of his slaves, and under Roman civil law, and that's what the purpose of this order is. And they don't want to have, see, they're talking about family of or clan of or house of. J.D. Rooke took the initiative on his own to do this master order for organized pseudo-legal commercial argument documents. And when he did that, he proved that everything I said about him in the affidavit of criminal complaint for the criminal corporation called Canada, which is recorded with the Pinal County Recorder, is absolutely 100% true. Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what he did. He went and proved it all true for me. Thanks, Rooke. And now we're going to come and look you up here one of these days. This is actually in that affidavit of criminal complaint for the criminal corporation called Canada. The reason the 93 is listed there is it's actually attached to another document. But this document's actually recorded, and the recording number is right here. It's 2011-066322. Anyways, so let's get in here closer. It says that J.D. Rooke, Associate Chief Judge, is giving aid and comfort to the enemy, is an imposter operating without authority. Well, think about it. He's a clerk. He's impersonating a judge under the color of law, under his fictitious laws, and none of his judgments or orders are of any force or effect. That's true. He's a clerk. His judgments mean absolutely nothing, and he doesn't have immunity, and he's in breach of trust. And so J.D. Rooke, the Associate Chief Judicial Whore, has made everything that I said about him in numerous paragraphs in the affidavit of criminal complaint, Lethbridge City Police, which is recorded with the Pinal County Recorder at fee number 2011-066323. All of that's now 100% truth, and we're going to go through a little bit of that here. Paragraph 43 says that, let's see, do we get bigger? Nope, don't. J.D. Rooke, Court of Queen's Bench, wants to make sure I cannot take away the presumptions of his criminal benchers in Lethbridge, so they've created their circuit of so-called judges and make sure that there's many potential judges in this case, so the perjurer on the bench can continue to make their presumptions, and also to make sure I cannot defeat their presumptions so they can violate my rights with complete impunity. And so that's all 100% true, and he just proved it. He proved it. He proved it with his order, is what he did. And with this master order for pseudo-legal arguments. The perjuring handlers, J.D. Rooke, Allison, Redford, and Whitman, know that they want to help them and still be able to claim plausible deniability, so these perjuring, murdering, thieving criminals can continue with their criminal enterprise. They can also collect royalties from these criminals as well. What they're talking about is the pigs, the Lethbridge City pigs. And so what it is basically the Rooke and Redford and Whitman want these city pigs to be able to continue on with their assaults and kidnappings and thefts, and they want to be able to collect the royalties off the cases, because all those cases are clerks. There's no judges that are involved in those cases. It's all clerks, and these clerks get to collect the royalty. And this is paragraph 76. The perjuring criminal bar members Rooke and Coleman and Redford and Whitman don't want me to take away their presumptions because there's intent to violate my rights, which is why they do not publish their names and address for service. It's also why they put you on their round robin, and also make sure you have no round robin means that you never know who the whore is that's going to hear your case, so you can't go and serve them with something to defeat their presumptions, and also make sure you have a different so-called judge so they can go ahead and violate your rights with complete impunity. That way they can make sure they get their royalty, and their perjuring prosecutor Coleman can get his royalty too. And so and that's exactly what's going on, and Rooke just proved it basically by all of the stuff that went on with the Canada border pigs. These perjuring bar members, Rooke, Coleman, Redford, and Whitman, are excited because they know that I'm not going to pay their extortion. They know I'm not going to appear in their show, their kangaroo court, and when they can issue one of their bench warrants for their fraudulently created straw man vessel. See, and again, in their kangaroo court, it's a clerk in there, and so then it's not a real warrant. When their perjuring hired thugs will go out and find me and kidnap me and force me into their corporate commercial jurisdiction like they've already done, they'll force me into their warehouse, where the International Monetary Fund will pay off the alleged debt that the perjurer on the bench will create with a bid bond, a payment bond, and a performance bond while he's sitting on the bench in the show trial. And that's exactly what happened with Redmond the pig, and so Rooke just made all of that true. And so that's exactly what happened with Redmond the pig. And so And here, let's look at this other stuff. I have previously and I continue to claim the right to resist their unlawful arrest with lethal force if necessary. I have that right. I previously and continue to claim the right to travel on the land of Alberta unmolested by these criminals. Go ahead, make my day. I have a death wish, Rooke. Go ahead, make my day. Judgment Day's coming, Rooke. Anyways, this is paragraph 105 of the same document, and it says Rooke is giving aid and comfort to the enemy, is an impostor operating without authority under color of law, and none of his judgments are any force or effect. Well, he's a clerk. He doesn't have authority, and none of it means anything. And he's breached the trust. And so Judgment Day's coming, Rooke. All oaths must be lawful, allowed by common law or some statute if they're administered by persons in a private capacity or not duly authorized. They're quorum non judice and void. Okay, in other words, if they're not operating in their official capacity, then they're in their private capacity, and that's what Rooke is doing. When he's a clerk, he's operating in his private capacity, and so everything he does is void. And that's what this is basically saying. This is a quote from book 3 of the Institutes on the Laws of England by Coke, and it's cited in Tomlin's Law Dictionary. Rooke intends to make war on anyone who considers himself a living soul or a freeman on the land. It's tyrants like Rooke that precipitated the War of Independence when they flogged a man to death for refusing to take a license, which after having witnessed it, Patrick Henry said, "Give me liberty or give me death." It's tyrants like Rooke that precipitated the Magna Carta. It's tyrants like Rooke that precipitated the Confirmatio Chartarum. And this is Black's Law Dictionary, 8th edition. A freeman, a person who possesses and enjoys all civil and political rights belong to people under free government. And Rooke doesn't want to have any of those in his kangaroo courts, and because that's just proof that the Alberta courts are all, there are no courts in Alberta. They're all clerks. They're all thieves. A person is, and a freeman's also a person who's not a slave. And so this just is further proof that all the Alberta courts are clerks. They're thieves. They're pirates. They're just a gang of thieves. Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. A freeman in Roman law denoted one as either born free or emancipated and was the opposite of a slave. Okay, again, Rooke the pig wants to make sure that all he has is slaves in his kangaroo court. It is tyrants like Rooke that precipitated the English Civil War. It's tyrants like Rooke and Tillman who keep saying the Magna Carta no longer applies because they intend to precipitate another revolution. J.D. Rooke has no lawful valid current oath. J.D. Rooke is bought and paid for. J.D. Rooke is an order taker and a pig. J.D. Rooke provides the best justice money can buy. Governments, the Constitution is a trust indenture with delegated authority. This is the U.S. Supreme Court. Governments are but trustees acting under derived authority and have no power to delegate what is not delegated to them. But the people from the original fountain might take away what they have delegated and entrust to whom they please. Sovereignty in every state resides in the people of the state, and they may alter and change their form of government at their own pleasure. So what they're saying in here is the Constitution is a trust indenture, and so that's the U.S. and Canada. It's a trust indenture, and it's got delegated authority. And so here's another case that talks about it. It says by their Constitution entrusted to it. Okay, that's another U.S. Supreme Court case. There's actually lots of cases that talk about this. The important thing I want to point out is that these are maxims of law here. A delegate cannot delegate. In other words, an agent cannot delegate his functions to a subagent without the knowledge or consent of the principal. The person to whom an office or duty is delegated cannot lawfully devolve the duty on another unless he be expressly authorized to do so. And that's one maxim of law. Another one says a delegated power cannot again be delegated. A deputy cannot have or appoint a deputy. Well, you know, help me out here. I'm having trouble seeing anywhere in the B&A bill that it says anything about a corporation called Canada, or a corporation called the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, or a corporation called the Canada Border Services Agency. Help me out here. Maybe it's in there somewhere and I can't see it. Or a corporation called the Lethbridge Correctional Center, or the Calgary Remand Center. Help me out here. I'm having trouble seeing it. I just am having trouble seeing it, and I want to see where it says anything about that. So help me out. I'm looking for it. Anybody want to volunteer? I'd appreciate it. There's no authority in Canada or the United States to delegate any power to the United Nations or any United Nations agency. And so help me out here. Where does it say that they can delegate authority to Unidroit? I want to see it. Help me out here. I'm looking for it. All so-called courts in Canada, United States, and many other countries, 63 according to the Unidroit website, are United Nations courts, are de facto, are thieves, are pigs, are pirates, and in some cases are murderers. The ultra vires. Ultra vires is an act performed without any authority to act on a subject. The term has a broad application and includes not only acts prohibited by the Charter, but acts which are in excess of powers granted. Act is ultra vires when corporation is without authority to perform it under any circumstances or for any purpose. Ultra vires act of municipality is one which is beyond powers conferred upon it by law. And that's Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition. So let's go back to this stuff about delegation, right? Think about it. Do I have the authority to tell someone to go to the neighbor over there and steal some of his property to give it to the guy down the street because he doesn't have any money? No, I do not. And so therefore, if I do not have the authority, I cannot delegate it. And so therefore, the government doesn't have it. And so therefore, if they're stealing the property, they're getting you into some contract. The thieves, they're nothing but a bunch of thieves is what they are. Anyways, obedience to de facto law. This is actually found in the Section 15 of the Criminal Code of Canada. And they know they're de facto. That's the reason they put this in there. And it talks about obedience to de facto law. No person shall be convicted of an offense in respect of an act or omission of obedience to the laws for the time being made and enforced by persons in de facto possession of the sovereign power in and over the place where the act or omission occurs. And they're all de facto. All these kangaroo courts, they're not even courts. And this corporation, where's the authority for the corporation or the RCMP pigs or the Canada Border pigs? All courts in Canada and the United States are United Nations courts under the Unidroit Treaty and have been for over 30 years. All courts are de facto courts. There's no authority to delegate anything to the United Nations and the Constitution for the United States of America or the British North America Act. Unidroit stands for the unification of private law, and the website says that 63 countries have adopted it. It's designed to be automatically implemented, and one of the things it says is it covers municipal law, and there's law dictionary definitions and court cases to say that municipal law, civil law, Roman civil law, and Roman law are all interchangeable phrases. Canada and the United States have been signatories for the Unidroit Treaty for over 30 years. Unidroit website says nothing about Texas or Arizona, any of the American states or the Canadian provinces. Therefore, a Unidroit application in the American states or the Canadian provinces is only in federal areas. So they send out their federal thugs to assault you and drag you into their kangaroo court that's not a court, that's a clerk, and so then they can shove some of their fictitious collar of law down your throat. When acting to enforce a statute and its subsequent amendments to the present date, the judge of a municipal court is acting as an administrative officer and not in a judicial capacity. Courts administrating or enforcing statutes do not act judicially, but merely ministerially, but merely as an extension or an agent for the involved agency. Gee, that sounds like a conspiracy, but only in a ministerial and not a discretionary capacity. So the judge is conspiring with this prosecutor pig so that they can railroad you is what it is. It's a kangaroo court. Redmond intended to deny me any common law rights, including my right to due process in his kangaroo court, with his summary proceeding that was also intended by Harper the pig, McKay the pig, Johnston the pig, Battenberg the pig, Redford the pig, Bernard the pig, Benkendorf the pig, Dennis the pig, Ethel the pig, Rooke the pig, Matchett the pig, Legranger the pig, Haronaka the pig, Whitman the pig, Tillman the pig, Nicholson the pig, McCarty the pig, Lefevre the pig, Langston the pig, Wister the pig, Toes the pig, McCarty the pig, and the Canada Border pigs. There's Rooke. That's kind of a lousy picture, eh? But that's Rooke the pig, and look at that. He's wearing his monkey suit, his Bail priest uniform, and yeah, that's Rooke. And there's Donald Ethel the pig, and he's the lieutenant governor for Alberta, and so that's his Bail priest uniform. And that's Alison Redford the pig. You know, she was forced out of being premier, but she got her quid pro quo for getting my case dismissed in Lethbridge. So I'm sure that her and Langston are butt buddies. And then there's Rob Nicholson the pig, and then there's Stephen Harper the pig. This is a picture of Stephen Harper the pig, and this is Rob Nicholson the pig. I want to make special mention of those pigs. and Vic Tay's the pig. And this is Peter MacKay, the current Justice Minister, the pig. And this is David Johnson, the current Governor General, the pig. And he's got his monkey suit on, I guess. Kind of looks like it with the medals or whatever he's got there. Anyways, that's David Johnston, the pig. He's the one that's hired by the bitch, Elizabeth the bitch. Anyways, Black's Law Dictionary, 8th edition, Kangaroo Court, a self-appointed tribunal or mock court which the principles of law and justice are disregarded, perverted, or parodied. A court or tribunal characterized by unauthorized or irregular procedures so as render a fair proceeding impossible, a sham legal proceeding, and that's exactly what they hold. Summary proceeding, any proceeding which the controversy is settled without the aid of a jury, without presentment or indictment out of the regular course of common law. And that's exactly what they do every time. If you don't have a jury, then it's a summary proceeding. If that whore up there is all by himself, it's a summary proceeding. And having a trial with jury is not the same as having a trial by jury. And so there's a major difference. And that's Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. Kangaroo Court, term descriptive of a sham legal proceeding in which a person's rights are totally disregarded, in which the result is a foregone conclusion because of the bias of the court or other tribunal. Well, you know, when the guy's a clerk for the agency and the prosecutor and him are conspiring in open court, that sounds like bias, and this sounds like a kangaroo court too. Summary proceeding, a non-jury proceeding that settles a controversy, and it says the common law is wholly a stranger to summary proceedings, and it says see plenary action. That's Black's Law Dictionary, 8th edition. And so that's exactly what it is. A plenary jurisdiction is, of course, full and absolute power of the subject matter and the parties in the case. It's a dictatorship. That's exactly what it is. Summary proceeding is another name for a Star Chamber that was abolished by England. The corrupt Star Chambers of England, courts of England, required defendants to have counsel. Star Chambers stood for swiftness and arbitrary power. Gee, that sounds like a military dictatorship, and it was a limitation on the common law. In other words, there was no common law in the Star Chamber, and that's exactly what a summary proceeding is. And that's U.S. Supreme Court, by the way. Redmond the pig is not a judicial whore because he was not acting as a judge, but was acting to enforce a statute. When acting to enforce a statute and its subsequent amendments to the present date, the judge of a municipal court is acting as an administrative officer and not in a judicial capacity. Courts administrating and enforcing statutes do not act judicially, but merely ministerially. Ministerial officers are incompetent to receive grants of judicial power from the legislature. Their acts in attempting to exercise such powers are necessarily nullities. And so he was a clerk. Redmond's the clerk, and Rooke the pig. When he was doing his divorce case with Meads versus Meads, Rooke was a clerk.